Hey guys, I got a little question by Gabriela, and meanwhile, I'm gonna eat one of those. I don't know how they're called in English, but you probably know them. Should I look it up? So she asked how I learned to listen to my body, and this is such a good question because I just took forever to learn it. Wait. Okay, it doesn't really have a translation. I think it's rather a Swiss or German thing. Anyway, it's kind of like marshmallow fluff but covered in chocolate, so it's really good. And the base, like the really just this part here, is a little biscuit. Very recommended if you ever see it. So she asked how I learned to really just listen to my body, to understand body cues, hunger cues, when do I need rest, etc. Really nice. And so it was a really long progress. I can tell you, as a teenager, I was not at all able to recognize when I needed rest, when I needed food, when I needed sleep. Honestly, I did stuff, and at some point I was just binging because I was so hungry, or I was, I don't know, just in a really bad mood because I was so tired. But I couldn't really understand why I was that way. I love it so much. So, how did I learn it? One really big lesson was when I was still in my ED. I didn't even start recovery yet because I was kind of denying to myself that I had a problem. I was on holidays with my mom, and this time it was horrible because I was honestly really, really tired and I had zero energy. And we were in Spain, where my family, or part of my family, lives. And so in Spain, obviously, it's not very cold, it's pretty warm. And when you're pretty tired and don't have energy anyway, it's even worse. And when I'm with people, it's a lot easier, or it was. Now I don't do it anymore. It was a lot easier to restrict. And so during those holidays, I probably, if I would have kept going for another week, I would have at some point broken down because I was so tired. And so, yeah, one evening I was with my mom and we were going to the beach, and then we walked back to the city center because luckily where I'm from, it's directly at the beach. And it was going uphill, and that somebody was like, I'm so hungry. And then I asked her, what does it feel like to be hungry? Because I didn't know what hunger was back then, because I was just constantly hungry and I never really learned what hunger was, or even though I was constantly hungry, I didn't know what hungry meant. And then she told me, oh, I'm really low energy right now, so I know I need food. And her saying that just made a huge click in my head, because from that moment on, I started realizing that I was just very hungry because I was super low energy the whole time. So the problem was best thing. That I didn't know that I was so tired because I was not eating enough until that point. And so then a really long journey started. I think this was one of the last things I needed to really realize that I needed to change. And so 1 month later, I think I started my recovery journey. because also I found Tabitha Farrar. I understood that I really need to just eat a lot. And at the beginning, eating a lot, it felt like binging. It didn't feel like I was in control. And also being tired, I often try to suppress my appetite, my tiredness for the first months, even the first year of my recovery. So when I was tired, I would just force myself to get up and go on a walk or something like that, instead of just letting myself be tired and resting. And then over time, because I let myself to do things like eating a lot, sleeping a lot, resting a lot, not doing exercise, especially in the second part of my recovery, I think my body just learned that actually you can do those things, like eating a lot when you have low energy or resting a lot. And so over time it started demanding for it, and I started to understand when I'm really like, I don't know, when I'm tired, I have to take time for myself. It's okay to scroll on TikTok for 2 hours if you just cannot get up. It's fine. Obviously, it kind of feels bad because you're like, oh my God, I'm so unproductive. But sometimes that's just all you need to do. And it's very difficult to learn that, because in your ED, the two things are you want to restrict your food and you want to be super productive, especially in order to not think about food. Because when you have nothing to do, you start to think a lot about your food. And so if you're constantly occupied, there's less room for thought. And when you're in recovery and you take recovery seriously and you rest a lot, there's a lot of time to think about food, a lot of time to be hungry, and a lot of time to eat. And so that's what you're actually scared of. So what you have to do to learn, I think it's just to, even if you maybe don't feel like it, just give yourself a lot of rest, lay down a lot, really lay, don't even sit, just lay in your bed and chill, and always have snacks next to you. And at some point you're gonna get fed up with all of the food and all of the laying down, and then you're gonna have some urge to maybe do more movement, like go on a walk or go to a party. And then sometimes you're just not hungry, but you will also have a lot of urges to rest, a lot of urges to eat, because that's what you're kind of learning, that that's okay to do. And I think that's how I learned it, just by doing it, even though I maybe was very scared to do it and blah blah blah. I just tried doing it. And nowadays I see a lot of patterns in why I'm tired. So I'm gonna give you an example. Today, until probably lunchtime, I was laying in my bed, and at first I wanted to go to the horse that I also go to, because the whole week his owner is away, so I can care for him. But today it was super hot, and I know that from tomorrow it's gonna cool down. So now I was like, first of all, I'm super tired. Second of all, it's super hot, so why would I force myself to get up if I can just relax and then have more fun the rest of the week? And so I laid in my bed, I just chilled, I stared at my wall, I stared at my phone, and then eventually I got up, I cooked myself a nice meal. And sometimes I'm feeling really nasty, like not even showering but already eating, because I'm like 30, but I know that once I eat, I get more energy, and then after I showered, I just feel so much better. And just all of those things, it's taking the time for yourself, and just over time, I guess you start to see patterns, because that's what I originally wanted to say. I was so tired because Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was constantly on my feet and like doing things and learning things and seeing things and talking to people, socializing, which always takes a lot of energy from me. With also, I slept very little those days, so obviously I was super tired today. I just saw a spider. And so yeah, that's how I learned it. I just honestly forced myself to rest and to eat a lot. And if you're curious about how I learned what type of food I'm craving, it's difficult because sometimes I still don't know. But generally, I would say the first thought that you have is what you should eat. It always works out. If you wake up and you think about macaroni and cheese, then fucking get up and do that for you. You don't have to do porridge just because it's morning. You can do whatever you want, whatever your first thought is, because the thought is there for a reason. It's not just random. Like, there is a reason behind it. Same with generally thinking about food. It means that you're hungry. Mental hunger, look it up, it's very real, and it was the biggest help for me in recovery, because usually I wouldn't feel hungry from the stomach, but I would just like think about food, and the only way to get rid of those thoughts is by being satiated and eating enough. So by eating. Okay, I'm gonna eat another one of those. Here they call them Kiss Big, because they're big, but I have eaten bigger ones than those. They're not, but there's like the really small ones as well. But yeah, so I hope that could help. Bye.